Hi there, my name is Bianca, and I wanted you to meet my cat, Flint. He is 18 years old. He is almost as old as I am. Oh, and he's always been a sweet kitty cat. And he's been a very important part of my life so far. So I wanted to talk about him and talk about what he means to me. I can remember the day I was only 3 years old, but I can remember the day we picked him out. Menlo Park Mall, if you've ever been in New Jersey or from New Jersey, you know Menlo Park Mall used to have a pet store in it. And my parents, who were still together at the time, took me to the pet store at the Menlo Park Mall to pick out a kitten. And, let's see. I can picture the store in my head. There used to be a sort of window at the front of the store, so at about waist level, you could see this area where all these kittens were playing in this weird hay stuff, and there were a litter of kittens running around and having fun. And I wanted a cat that looked just like our first cat, whose name was also Flint. Um, this is what my father tells me. I don't actually remember our first cat, but apparently I was 3 years old and I didn't like change very much, so I wanted to pick out another striped cat that looked just like our first one, and I also insisted on calling that one Flint, much to my mother's annoyance. She wanted a cute black cat, but I got my way. And I was 3 years old when we got him, and that's one of my earliest memories. I've had him about as long as I've had memories of life. So I remember the day we got him, but most of our early memories are really vague. Um, I remember one time specifically. I remember the day he went to get neutered. I was trying to ask my parents why we had to take him to the vet if he wasn't sick, and they were explaining to me, and it's just a thing cats have to get done. It's like a checkup. Okay, I bought that. And I remember I found a perfect picture in one of my coloring books of a cartoon cat sick in bed with a thermometer sticking out of its mouth. And while they were at the vet, I colored that picture in, and when they brought Flynn home, I kind of like showed it to him as if he could see and understand, like, look, I colored this picture for you, and I hung it on the fridge at his level so he could look at it and enjoy it. And that was my understanding of cats at the time. I don't really remember, but according to my father, I used to terrorize this poor cat so much. I used to terrorize him. He once caught me picking him up and slamming him against the ground, and I don't know why I was doing that, but he had to educate me, no, that's bad, that hurts the cat. I think I might have been a little slower than most children to learn what empathy was, and to learn that creatures outside myself could feel pain, that I was causing them pain, but I got the hang of it eventually. And it's thanks to him that I did. He is probably the first living thing I've ever empathized with. And I think that's the reason I grew so attached to him. I Anybody who knows me knows I was a cat person for most of my life. It's all I ever knew. When I was 14 and I got a hold of the internet, my handle was Beyond Cat Lover. And my fascination with cats started with him. I was just unbelievably obsessed. I was so in love with the idea that a creature outside myself could be so spectacular and interesting, and how a sense of hearing was so much more incredible than mine, and how a sense of smell was twice as good as mine, and their eyes. Don't get me started on a cat's eyes, they're just remarkable. My father my father sort of nursed this love of cats, and every time I went to Barnes and Noble, I insisted on picking out a book about cats. I must have an entire shelf of them back in Jersey. Cat encyclopedias, books on cat breeds, 100 things you didn't know about cats, and I completely immersed myself in it. And that's thanks to him. It's a miracle that he turned out as friendly as he did. He's never been mean to a person a day in his life. And considering I used to torture him the way I did. It's a miracle that he came out as nice as he did. And he really seemed to love me, despite my early treatment of him. When I was growing up, he used to sleep in my bed every night, right up in the corner of my arm. He would sleep in the corner of my arm for years and years and years. And I was always happy to have him purring and lulling me to sleep. Um, he used to love going outside, which is another remarkable reason he made it to the age he did. He used to love going outside. One day when I was little, he just sort of got out. And my mother didn't really expect him to come back, but he did. And that became a routine thing. He used to go out and come back when he felt like it. And we lived in suburban New Jersey, so I'm really surprised nothing ever happened to him, but nothing ever did. He would go out, patrol around. He was a scary cat, from what I could gather. He would terrify other cats out of his territory just by looking at them. What? He's a badass old man of a cat, yeah. And, he never ever got seriously sick. He never got so much as a cold, from all I can tell. And his teeth would fall out, but he never got an infection or an abscess. And this was in his old age. So always an impressively healthy, resilient cat. Um, he used to love going outside. He brought in a mouse once. I can remember that very clearly. I was little, but my mother saw him playing with something under our coffee table, and it was a still very much alive mouse that scurried out from underneath, and she started screaming, and she batted out of the house with a broom. So, good hunter, but likes playing with his food a little bit too much, maybe. We brought another cat into the house when I was little. For a while, we had a second cat named Cha Cha. And in the history of me living with him, my cats never really liked other cats. Flint has never, ever got along with other cats really well. He hates other cats. But Cha Cha, for some reason, he had a really strong bond with that cat. He would he would sit there and groom him. They would sleep together, and in the middle of the night, they would have races where they would run down the stairs in our house, scream across the first floor of our condo, and crash into the blinds in the kitchen hanging in front of the glass doors. It was entertaining to listen to. He liked laser pointers and string and all those cat things. Particularly fond of catnip. One of my favorite Christmas Eve rituals was wrapping a catnip toy up for him and putting it under the tree on Christmas Eve, and he never quite had the patience to wait till Christmas morning. So in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve, he would attack his present and open it up, and he would always have a lot of fun with that. He was a really he anybody with pets understands that a pet really gives you unconditional love, and that's something special about them. They usually feel like family in that way, and I think it's because they don't judge you, they don't care. You're there and they love you. And that was really important to me for some harder parts of my life where I did not have any friends. I was not gifted with social interaction in my early childhood and into my teens. And at times where I couldn't really say I had any friends, he was always happy to see me. I would come home and he would always be happy to see me, and he would play with me and rub up on me and love me, and he was always there. So I was always really thankful for that. He was my friend and my companion for so long, and he kept me warm at night. And above all else, he inspired me. He gave me my lifelong passion. I have this cat to thank for that. More than anything in my life, I adore animals, and it's him that gave me that. I want to be a veterinarian, and it's all thanks to him. He gave me my lifelong goals and passions. he's been around since the beginning for me. I've known him longer than my sisters. I've grown closer to him than I have with most people that I know. Even into my late teens, my cat fascination with cats was borderline obsession. I'm that person that decided to include my cat in my senior photo. You've probably made fun of that person on the internet. I'm that person. Yep. I uh I was always very enthusiastic about cats. And it's thanks to Flint. My mother claims that when we had my first cat, this is Flint the second, Flint the first, who I don't have any memories of, used to sleep on my mother's stomach while she was pregnant with me and purr. And supposedly that's where my love of cats comes from. But since I have no memory of that, I'm gonna give Flint number two the credit. Still, he's stuck with me for 18 years. And he's aged gracefully for the most part. His hair started thinning. He started losing weight a couple years ago. A little more listless, a little less interested in playing with string, but still pretty spry and still fairly good jumper and all that. Still had his wits about him. So he aged gracefully the past couple years, but about a month ago he started aging not so gracefully. So yesterday I took him to the vet to see what was up. He started getting a little incontinent, having some trouble making it to the litter box, and I took him to the vet to see if they could help. And when they began the examination on him, it seemed pretty normal. First, a vet student had a look at him, and then she sort of conversed with a senior veterinarian who also came in and had a look at him. And she started feeling his liver, and she said, "Oh, something doesn't feel right there. Let's take him to the back and do a urinalysis on him." I said, "Okay." I consented. I said, "I have this much money to spend on my emergency credit card. Use it however you see fit." And so they took him in the back when I hung out in the lobby, and they came back and got me much sooner than I anticipated. And when they came back out to get me, they took me back to a different exam room than the one we started in. And this room was furnished all pretty, and it had couches and paintings and dim lighting in it. And as soon as I saw that room, I knew they weren't gonna tell me something I was gonna be happy to hear. And they were very gentle about it. So it took me a while. It took me a while to realize what they were trying to tell me. Then they told me that he had liver cancer. And I knew for a while now that he was getting old and that his time was probably coming. But they said that it was really bad and that his liver could fail any day now. And that he had a couple weeks at most. And I didn't expect that to happen so suddenly. So, he's okay right now. They aspirated his liver and took the excess fluid out of his stomach to make him more comfortable. And they gave me some medicine to help him for a little while. But his liver could fail any day. And as soon as that happens, he would only have a few hours. So they would be painful for him. So I decided to have him euthanized so he wouldn't have to suffer through that. And that's getting done early this week. So I wanted you to meet him before I had to take him, because he's been an important part of my life. And if you want to know me, then you have to know my cat. to really understand who I am, you had to meet my cat first. So here he is. This is just the video I wanted to make as a way of thanking him for being a part of my life. He was a very important part of my life. And he lived to be very old, and I'm sure he had a happy cat life. And I'm just glad he was with me for as long as he was. So, he has to go now. I'm spoiling him this weekend. I'm sitting in bed with him, and I'm feeding him top-notch food. He's getting fancy cheese and fancy sardines packed in water, and he's getting chicken thighs for dinner, and he's getting special canned kitten milk. So he's getting spoiled, and I'm trying to make his last days as comfortable as possible. The weather's been really shitty the past couple of days, and I'm kind of sad because he used to love going outside. I just wanted to take him out one more time. But I guess it won't really make much of a difference to him. And that would be more for me than it would be for him. We have to remember to keep our pets separate from ourselves, I guess. And so yeah, I don't want, this was a weird video for me to make. I'm trying to be as happy as I possibly can. You know, the Irish show parties at funerals. They make it a celebration. They make it a celebration of that person's life instead of mourning their death. And I really like that idea. I'm gonna try and do that as much as I possibly can. And I've decided to donate his cancer cells for research. In a weird way, part of him will live on because they're gonna donate his cancer cells and grow them in the lab for research and help other animals in the future using that. So, thank you, Flint, for being part of my life. That's my cat.